Hello my friends, today we're learning Basra Daf Pei. We're going to start from the Mishnah. So the Mishnah is discussing a continuation of the other Mishnahs. When someone buys something, what exactly does that include? So the first case of the Mishnah is someone buying a pigeon house, a shoivach it's called in Hebrew, and we're going to call it a shoivach for the rest of the Shia, where people have pigeons, and he's buying the new pigeons, the new babies that are born. So what does that include? So he's buying a year forward what's going to be born. So what does that include? That's the first case. The second case is someone buying a hive, but not the hive itself. He's buying all the bees that are born this year from the hive. And the third case is buying all the honey that comes from the hive this year. And the fourth case is buying trees for firewood, olive trees. So let's see it inside. It says the Mishnah, someone Reuven buys from Shimon. So Reuven is always going to be the buyer and Shimon's going to be the seller. So he buys a shoivach, the pigeon that are born from the shoivach, from his friend, a year's supply. Mafriach brecha rishona. Says the Mishnah that Reuven, who bought the new babies are born, the first new babies, he leaves in the shoivach. So the Rashbam explains that pigeons have every month, they have two babies, a boy and a girl, and except on Chodesh Adar, they don't have babies. That's an interesting fact. And the babies themselves have when they're born, 2 months afterwards, they start having eggs and babies. So it says the Mishnah that the first two pigeons are born from the shoivach. He leaves in the shoivach because if you will take them away, the mothers might fly away because they'll be upset because the babies were taken. Peres kaveres, if he bought the bees in the hive, he takes the first three new hives that come out of the original hive, the babies, and afterwards he doesn't take anymore. We're going to see in the Gemara there's three pshatim what that means. Chalois dvash, if he bought the honey that grows that comes from the hive, meniach beis chalois, he can't take all the honey, he has to leave two chales of dvash. It comes like normally nowadays in a square or like a long piece with all honey on it. He has to leave two, and the reason why he leaves two is because in the winter the bees don't make honey, so you want to leave that for the hive that they should survive in the winter, that they should have what to eat. So even though they bought all the honey, he has to leave two chales of honey in the hive. Zeitzim lokutz, if he bought olive trees for firewood, Meniach shtei grufios, he has to leave in each tree two branches that the tree should continue, because when the person sold them the tree, it didn't mean they should destroy the tree, it meant they should take all the wood, but that the tree should continue. Says the Gemara, Vatanya, we learned that you leave only the first babies of the shoivach. Vatanya in the Braisa brecha rishona v'shnia, first and second. It's a clear stira between the Mishnah and the Braisa. Says the Gemara, no, there's no stira. Omer of Kana, loy kashya, holo, hole imo. In the Mishnah, we only talk about the original pigeon. In the shoivach, you leave the first brecha. Brecha means a couple, a boy and a girl of pigeons. So you leave the first ones. But in the Braisa, when it said that you leave a second one, it means that the first ones that were born after 2 months, they will start having babies. So their first babies of the first one that you left, you also leave. So you leave 3 generations. The original one, that's obviously because you never bought the mothers, you only bought the babies. The first babies you leave that the mother should have who to hang out with, that they shouldn't run away. And the babies of the babies, the third generation, the first one, you also leave. On that asks the Gemara, what's the reason that the original pigeons that in the shoivach, that you have to leave them babies, is the mitztava abarta v'azuga, that you need them to have. Mitztava means that they connect, they like tzevet, they're together, they need to have company. So the company with the daughter and the female and the male one, the zuga, the partner of the female baby. The shafkinelo. Inami, why the babies themselves? Why do we say that we need to leave them babies? L'chora, they have company. Titztava, they should have company. Aima v'azuga, to the mother and the father of the babies. They also have company. So what's the problem? Why do we need to leave for them also babies? Inami titztava aima v'azuga the shafkin lo. Says the Gemara, ima barta mitztava, barta ima lo mitztava. Says the Gemara that the rachmanus is from the mother and the daughter. And therefore, the first couple, you need to leave them babies, because their rachmanos, if you leave them, the first babies are going to stay in the shoivach. And the first babies that were born, if you won't leave them their babies, even though that they have a mother and father, they have less rachmanos on the mother and father. They have rachmanos on the continuation generations. And if you won't leave them one generation that grows later, they're going to fly away. And then the original ones are also going to fly away. That's why you have to leave 3 generations. The original one, the first babies, and then the first babies of the second generation. Says the Gemara, we learned in the Mishnah, Peres Kaveres, if you bought the bees from the hive, that means the bees that are born this year from the hive, Noitel Gimen Necholim U'Mesares. So the Pashtus, the Mesares means that after you took out 3 Necholim, that means you have a hive, in the summer it starts making babies, the babies fly out the Kaveres, out of the hive, and then you put them a new hive, and then they live in there, and that belongs to the buyer. And then the second babies come out, and you have another hive, and that also goes to the buyer, and then the third one as well. And afterwards, Mesares, that means the owner, Reuven, Reuven bought from Shimon. That means Shimon, the owner, could make these bees not have any more babies. That means Rashbam explained that bees, or they make babies or they make honey. So after 3 sets of babies came out, Shimon could make the bees not make any more babies, only honey. And how does he do that? Says the Gemara, how do he do that? He gives them to eat. Chardol is mustard seed. If the bees eat from the mustard seed, they stop making babies and they make honey. Amri b'Marova, in Marova they say in Eretz Yisrael, Mishmeder Rav Yossi bar Chanina, lo chardol masarsom. It's not that because they eat the mustard, they stop having babies. Pshat is because they eat from the mustard, and the mustard is like bitter, it's a strong taste. They have a not tasty taste in the mouth, and they want the sweet taste, so they go back to the hive and they eat the honey. And once they see that the honey is getting wasted, they quickly make more honey and not more babies to survive. And that's a way to stop making babies and making honey. So that's the first pshat in the Mishnah, that when Reuven bought off Shimon the babies of the hive, he takes 3 sets of babies, and from then on he doesn't get anything, because he never bought the honey. And then Shimon could make them make only honey and no babies. Now we have another 2 pshatim. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, Noitel Shloisha Nechilim Besirus. He learns a whole different pshat in the Mishnah. When it says Noitel Gimesh Necholim U'Mesarsom, doesn't mean that he stopped them making babies. It means Sirus is Miloshon, 1 yes and 1 not. So he takes the first set of babies, Reuven the buyer, and then Shimon gets a second set of babies, and then the third set of babies Reuven gets, and the 4th set of babies Shimon gets, and then the 5th set of babies Reuven gets. So the buyer gets 3 sets of babies, but not 3 continuously, 1, 3, and 5. And that's pshat in the Mishnah. In the Brisa it says Noitel Gimel Nechilim B'Zachar Zeh, that when it says in the Mishnah 3 Nechilim, it means he takes the first 3, like the first pshat, but doesn't mean Misarsom and then he stops taking. No, Mikan Ve'elech Noitel Achas U'Meniach Achas. The first 3 he gets, and from there on he takes 1, and 1 he leaves for the owner. 1 he takes, 1 he leaves for the owner. And therefore he gets more than 3. So we had 3 pshatim. What do they mean? Noitel Gimel Nechilim U'Mesarsom. The first pshat is that he takes 3 and no more. The second pshat, he takes 3 and no more, but he takes 1, 3, and 5. And the third pshat is he takes the first 3, and then from there onwards, 1 yes, 1 no. So we said if someone bought chalos from a hive, he has to leave 2 chalos for the hive to survive in the winter. Omer Rav Kahana, Dvash bekaveres eino yotze midei machal lo'olam. Meaning, there is such a thing of tumas oichlim, and that means something that's a food. It could be mekabel tuma, and there's tumas mashkin, something that's a water is mekabel tuma as well. Now, what's the size? So the Rashbam explains a bit later on that oichel is metame when it's the size of a kabetza. That means if it got tome, it could be metame something else, and mashke is metame when it's a reviz. So says Rav Kahana, when you have honey in the hive, it's already considered food, and it's already mekabel tuma, and you don't need a machshava. It says that certain things you need to think about it. I want to eat this. I want to look at it as food, and only then it's mekabel tuma. Here, straight away, even without a machshava, it's considered food, and it's mekabel tuma, and it can be mitame other things if it's the size of a kabetza. Says the Gemara Meisive, I have a kasha on this. It says in the Braisha, Dvas bekaveresh, honey in the hive, einu loy oichel veloy mashke. It's not considered not food and not drink. I mean, it's not metame until you have a machshava on it or something, but it's not food. The opposite than Rav Kahana said, Omar Abaye lo yitzrucha elo lo oison shtei chalois. Said the Abaye Teretz, we said in the mission that you have to leave 2 chalois. Every hive owner leaves 2 chalois for his bees to survive the winter. So therefore, those 2 chalois he's not going to eat. He's going to leave them for the bees. That's why it's not oichel. So when it says in the Brisa that it's not food and not drink, it's talking about those specifically 2 chalois that you leave for the bees. The ones on the side, they leave for the bees to survive. Those are not food and not drink to Mikabel Tumah. But when Rav Kahana said that you don't need machshava, it's talking about the rest of the honey. That's for sure considered food straight away. Rava Omar Rabbi Loza. Rava says a different teretz. That's Rabbi Loza that we're going to see on Amud Beis. Rabbi Loza says that a hive, since it's connected to the ground, it's considered like karka. It's like ground. So like if you have an apple on the tree, even if a mace touches it, it's not metame because it's part of the ground. Only once it comes off the tree, it's shaykh tumah on it. So therefore, the shitta of the Bryce that says that the dvash is not oichel and no mashke, is shitta Rabbi Loza that holds that honey is considered, the hive is considered karka. It's like a tree, and therefore it's not mekabel tumah. And Rav Kahana was going with the other shitta that's not considered karka, like we're going to see that the machloikis about it, and therefore it's mekabel tumah straight away tumah soichlin. Says the Gemara on Amud Beis. Daf Hayomi base. Detnan, we learned in the Mishnah Kaveres Dvorim a beehive, and we learned this earlier, and therefore we're going to go through it quickly. Rabbi Eliezer Oima Aryeh Karka. It's considered like karka that's nikne bekesef. A koitzim alei prusbul to avoid shmita, taking away the choiv, and you need karka for that. Ve'enu mekabel is tuma, like karka is no mekabel tuma. B'mkoima when it's on its place, set in the ground. V'aroidim imenu b'Shabbos, someone who takes out honey from the hive on Shabbos, chayav chatos, it's like taking an apple off the tree. The chachamim oimrim, they argue on all these things. Ein koisim alei prusbul, ve'enu karka, mekabel is tuma, b'mkoima, v'aroidim imenu b'Shabbos potter, because they hold it's considered metaltalin. Omar Rabbi Loza, and Rabbi Loza, the Amoira explains my time at the Rabbi Eliezer the Tana. Tichsiv, because it's in the pasuk by Yonason and Shaul. By Itboloiso, he dipped his sword biyaras advash in the forest of honey. The Chimainin yaretz advash. What's a shaychus? A forest of honey. The Novi is coming to tell you, my yar, like a forest, a toilish meno b'Shabbos, someone who cuts off something off the forest on Shabbos, chayav chatos, because he's toilish. Aftvash, also honey, I read meno b'Shabbos, if you take out honey from the hive, chayav chatos, yoiva isa deraisa of toilish. And therefore we answered the stir between Rav Kahana and the Bryce. So the Bryce is Rabbi Eliezer, and the Rav Kahana was talking about shittas chachomim. So the Gemara Meisive, we have a kasha dvash azav mikavarto, dvash that's leaking out of the hive and it's coming out the hive. It's not food and not water. Bishlei Labayu answered the kasha and said the difference is, or we talking about the 2 chalois dvash, or we talking about the rest. Nicha, it's not kasha. Because we talk about that this it says that it's not, even though they came out of the hive, it's not oichel v'no mashke. It's talking about those 2 chalois dvash that you left for the bees. So even though they dripped out of the hive, since you never had kavanah for food for it, you had kavanah to leave it for the bees. So even they dripped out the hive until you don't have machshava to eat it, it's not considered oichel mashke. Elo l'Rava Kashya, l'Rava, who said that the difference between Rav Kahana and the Bryce, one is Rabbi Eliezer, and one is Rav Kahana b'Shittas Chachamim. What is he going to answer? Because here the whole shitta why it's not oichel mashke is because it's in the hive and it's considered karka. But here, once it dropped out the hive, it's not karka anymore. And since it's not karka anymore, it should be mikabel tumah. Omar Rav Zvid, kigoin shezav al gabe klimos. It's so much where they dropped on a disgusting keli, and therefore this honey is no roi la'achila. It's disgusting, and therefore it's no mekabel tumah. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Omar different teretz. Kigoin shezav al gabe kaskasim. Not that it fell on a dirty surface, it fell on lots of pieces of wood, on lots of little pieces, and you can't collect it. It's too little to collect it. It's all smudged with all pieces, so therefore you're not planning to eat it, and therefore it's not mekabel tumah because it's not oichel. So 2 ways how to answer the kasha. Basically, we have another kasha. It says dvash bekavartoi, honey in its hive, einu lo oichel, it's not food, v'lo mashke, it's not considered water. Chishev elov la'achila, if you thought, okay, now I'm planning to eat it, Metame tumas oichlim lemashkim. Metame tumas oichlim lemashkim. If he thought about it for drinking, for using it in his tea, metame tumas mashkin, it has a din of tumas mashkin. Bishleim ala Abaye nicha. Lefi how Abaye explained the difference between the two chalas and the rest of the chalas is very good, because we're talking about the two chalas they normally leave for the bees. So the Brisa, if you thought about them and you decided I'm not leaving it for the bees, I'm going to use them for food or for drink, so now it's Mekabel Tumah, like Tumas Oichlim or Mashkim. Elo l'rova, lefishet as rova, that the difference is Rabbi Eliezer and Chachomim. Kasha, what does it help if I think about to put apple on the tree and I say I'm planning to eat it? It's still not Mekabel Tumah, it's Mechub ala Karka, so also a hive, it's Mechub ala Karka. So how is this honey in the hive Mekabel Tumah? Omer l'chorova, Toretz Ochi. I'm going to explain the Brisa a bit different. We're going to change the Lashon in the Brisa. Chishav ala achila, we said now it's metame ala achila. So now we're learning differently. Eina metame tumas oichlim. Lemashkin, if he was mechashav to drink it, eina metame tumas mashkin. And therefore answers our kasha. Said the Gemara, Tanika v'seder Rav Kahana. We have a Brisa just like Rav Kahana. Tvash b'kavarato yahani in its hive metame tumas oichlim sheloi b'machshava. Even without thinking about it that you're going to eat it, it's already considered food and it's mekabel tumah. We learned in the Mishnah, Zeitim Lokut, if someone bought olive trees to cut them for firewood, Meniach, he has to leave Shtei Grufios, two branches that the tree should regrow. Tonu Rabbanon, we learned in the Brisa, Aloikechilin Mechaver Lokut, someone who buys a tree from his friend for firewood, Magbia Menakarka Tefach, you have to leave a tefach from the ground, you can't cut it all the way to the ground, you have to leave a tefach. And he cuts over there, and therefore the tree will regrow. Psulas hashikma, a sycamore tree, the first, and a psulas hashikma we learned earlier, it means the first time you're cutting it, gimel tfachim, you have to live 3 tfachim. Sadon hashikma, a sycamore tree, after you cut it the first time, and now you're cutting it the second time, and we learned you cut it once in 7 years, and it has very big, strong branches for building material. Base tfachim, you only have to leave base tfachim. Bekanim uvekfonim, Kanim and grape trees, how much do you have to leave? Pkak is like the circle or the first eye on the tree you have to leave that the tree can continue growing. But kolim arozim, palm trees and arozim, I think it's cider wood, I'm not sure how it's called in, but eres alevonoin. Choifa, when you buy it, you could dig in the ground, musharish, and pull out all the roots. Why? Because even if you cut them, even if you leave a few tefach, it's not really going to grow again. As we know, a palm tree, even if you take only the leaves off, it doesn't continue growing. So therefore, there's no inyan to leave anything. You could uproot it. Says the Gemara Kasha, we learned to b'sulas hashikma gimel tfachim. So Gemara asks, b'sulas hashikma gimel tfachim bein, and do you need to leave so much? 3 tfachim, v'remini, I have a kasha. It says about Shvis that you're not allowed to use the land. You're allowed to take an apple off the tree to eat, but you're not allowed to make the tree better. So it says, en kointitzim b'sulas hashikma b'shvis. You're not allowed to cut it down because it makes it grow better. It's considered avoida. Avoida is adoma because it's going to make the tree grow better. Also, the normal way to cut it, you're not allowed. Elo, the way to do it on Shvis, if you want it for building material, he doesn't cut all the way to the ground. He leaves 10 tfachim high of the tree and cuts it, and that's not the normal way to do it, and it's allowed on Shvis. Or goimem me'im oretz. Oh, he cuts it all the way down to the ground and doesn't leave anything of the tree. Said the Gemara, diuk mi'ima'aret to the kashi. It's mashma, what's bad for the tree is to cut it all the way to the ground. Or idoch, if you leave, let's say, 1 tefach or 2 tefachim ma'alilo. It's good. And why do we say by us you need to leave 3 tefachim? Or ma'abaye, it says abaye gimel tefachim ma'alilo. The best, if you want to regrow it again, is to leave 3 tefachim. Mi'ima'aret, if you cut it all the way down to the ground, badai kashilo, it's the worst and it's not really going to regrow. Mikan ve'iloch, from 0 to 3, loy makshi koshilo, it's not the worst. Velav ma'iluyim ma'alilo, it's not the best. So therefore, gabe shvis, when you're cutting the tree for shvis and you want the wood for building material, but you don't want to make the tree better, you have to do what's worse for the tree. That should be proven that you're not doing it for the benefit of the tree to regrow. Gabe mekachumenka, when you're buying a tree and it's obviously that the person wants to keep his tree to regrow it, you do the vadai ma'alilo, what's good for it. And what's best for it, to leave 3 tfachim. Okay, the Gemara continues with the other things that said in the Brisa. But kolim ubarozim, we said that you're allowed to choyfo mersharish, you're allowed to uproot it from the root. The fish ain't given machlet because it won't regrow. Frag the Gemara on that. Ve'erez, is it true? Does a erez tree en gizei machlit? Do the nori grow? V'odorish Rab Chia bar Lilioni. Rab Chia bar Lilioni learned from the pasuk. Ma'id what's pshat in the pasuk? Tzadik atomar yifroch. A tzadik will be like a date. You will grow like a date. Ke'erez ba'levonoin iske, like a erez tree in the Levonoin, in the north of Israel, will grow well. So says Rab Chia bar Lilioni, Im ne'ema tomo lama ne'ema erez. Im ne'ema erez lama ne'ema tomo. Why is a tzadik compared to both? It should be compared all to a date, all to erez. Why to both? So he explains. Ilu ne'ema erez. If it would say only erez, v'loi ne'ema tomo, aitzio imema erez, eno isiperis, like a erez tree doesn't have fruit. Af tzadik eno isiperis. Also, a tzadik doesn't have peris to the next world for what he does. And you'd think a tzaddik doesn't have a peris. Lekach ne'ema tomo. That's why we compare the tzaddik to a date. That always has fruit. Being ne'ema tomo, if you'd only tell me a date tree, a date, v'loi ne'ema erez, and it wouldn't say erez, I would say matomo, like a date tree, en gizoi machlif. If you cut it down, it doesn't regrow. Af tzaddik en gizoi machlif. If he falls, he won't get up again. And we know sheva tzaddik ipol v'kom. Therefore, lekach ne'ema erez. That's why it says erez. That even if you cut it, it regrows. And we said that if you buy erez, you could uproot it because anyway it doesn't regrow. So what's pshat? Does the erez regrow or not? Says the Gemara Teretz, elo ochim askinan b'shar min erozim. That there's different types of arozim, like we're going to see there's 10 types of arozim. So some regrow, and those ones that tzaddik is nimshal to such a type of error that regrows, and some arozim don't regrow, and that's the one that you could uproot. And it's a bit shver. Why did the Torah compare tzaddik to a type of tree that some of them don't regrow? The Torah should compare tzaddik to a tree that always regrows. Tzaddik more the Rabbi bar Avuna, like Rabbi bar Avuna, that we see that there's lots of types of arozim. The Omar Rabbi bar Avuna, Amri Beirav, from that Beis Medrash of Rav, they said, Yud mine arozim, and there's 10 types of arozim. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, Etin b'midbar ez shito va'adas ve'etz shemen osim. I'm going to read the pasuk till the end. Ba'arova broish titov v'tashu yachtov. And now we're going to say what the 10 types of arozim. Erez is arza. Shito is turu. Nisa. Ados is aso 8. Shemen is afarsimo. Broish is barati. Tido is shaga. V'tashru shurbino. And says the Gemara, Anizainavu, that's 7 types. Kiosar Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came, I think, from Eretz Yisrael, Omar, Sifu Elem, there's on top of that, there's another 3. Aloinim, Almoinim, and Almoigim. Aloinim is Butni. Almoinim is Bluti. Almoigim is Ksita. And Ikedarmi, some people say the 3 extra ones is Aroinim, Almoinim, and Almoigim. Aroinim, Ore, Almoigim, Dulvi, Almugim, Kesita. So it's all different types in Aramaic, all different types of errors. I can't really explain what they are. I don't know if we know nowadays what the 10 types are, but the Gemara knew. So the Gemara said there's 10 types, and some of them regrow, and some don't regrow. So the one that regrows is Nimshal to the Tzaddik, and the one that you could uproot is the one that doesn't regrow. Thank you very much.